Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. It is my pleasure to introduce today someone who gave great pride to District 93 as our first representative in the International Speech Contest in the summer in Kuala Lumpur. And today, Bob Kienzle is going to give us a presentation on the International Convention and Speech Contest. Bob joined Toastmasters in 2008, and he received his DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster Award, in 2010, the highest level in Toastmasters. And he was he was the National Table Topics winner in the fall 2011, and the District 93 Spring 2014 International Speech Contest champion in April. Bob was the first person to represent our district, and he will share with us today what he learned in the International Convention, including events, the leadership, and the networking in the International Speech Contest. Let us warmly welcome Bob Kienzle.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been told this 50-minute session is now a 40-minute session. So I've got a lot of things to cover. If I go too quickly and you want to stop me, you're welcome to do that. But we will have a Q&A session at the end. A great introduction. I don't think we need to do that anymore today. So let me talk a little bit about the International Convention and its history. Toastmasters has been around since 1924. It's 90 years old. And when they have these international conventions and the international speech contests, it's always been in the US or Canada. It's never been outside of North America until this year. It was in August in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. If any of you were here when our previous international president, John Lau, visited here 2 years ago, and he is Malaysian, and he was one big influence that got them to do it for the first time overseas. So we hope that becomes a trend in the future as well. Going to the International Convention in Malaysia, it was my first time. I was not the first Korean representative to go to the convention. Other district leaders have been before. Kevin Perrin's been going before we were ever a territory or district. But I was the first person to be able to compete in that international contest. It was one of the most professional and rewarding opportunities I've ever gotten. There was about, I believe, 5,000 different Toastmasters from all around the world to learn with, to go listen to their sessions, to network with. So some of this, the lighting in here isn't perfect. I had a nice shot here of me holding the American flag. I'm originally from the US, and then the Korean flag, doing my best to represent both countries. This is what we're going to be doing today. And again, I've got 10 minutes cut off, so if I go too quickly and there's something you want me to talk about more, we do have Q&A at the end. Let me talk about the convention first and what they do each day. Leadership lessons that I learned, the semifinal contest that I was a part of, and then the World Championship of Public Speaking, which I was not a part of. I did not win the semifinal round. And some of the networking and connections that we had, and then next year, the convention's in Vegas. Being able to go to the convention was possible because I won this district's contest in April, and the international organization funds my plane ticket and half of my convention cost. The convention cost was $550 for the 4-day event. They didn't cover any accommodation, but that's okay. I had a friend living there and I could stay for free. Now, the convention is usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but as some of you might have heard in the business meeting, if you came to the 9:30 a.m. business meeting, Monday and Tuesday was officer training. So again, it's dark here. We had Michael and Sung-il and Andy and some other people from Korea there for 2 days getting trained, but I wasn't part of that. The first day I went was Wednesday. They have a wonderful opening ceremony with 93 districts and 100 and I believe 15 countries represented from around the world. And each flag is carried out one at a time to show what a great international event it really was. There's a first timers event where you can go and mingle with people who have never been to the international convention before. And just throughout the whole week, there's just networking with everybody who's there for those different days. The first day also has some education sessions similar to what is happening at this district, but it's on a much bigger level. Previous world champions of public speaking giving these types of education sessions. Every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there were a lot of things set up. There was the Toastmasters marketplace where a lot of the things you maybe have seen in a catalog or on the website that you could order, a lot of that's there you can physically buy. They also had a lot of things set up where you could meet the regional candidates. One of our guest speakers this conference is Deepak. He's our regional international director for Region 13. The regional directors are voted every 2 years. So you have every day you can go and meet them, look at their literature, shake their hand, talk to them about their plans for the organization in order to know who to vote for later. On Thursday, this is a screenshot from my video in the semifinal speech contest. All the contestants meet very early in the morning at around 7:30 a.m. My club that I usually go to here in Korea meets at 8 p.m. in a bar. So doing something at 7:30 did not feel very comfortable. But there's 9 different contests. And throughout the day, 3 of them happen at one time. Then a few hours later, another 3 at the same time in different rooms. And then I was in the final set of 3. I was in semifinal number 7 out of 9. So I'm going to do a little bit of discussion, if we have enough time today, about some of the things that happened during that speech contest when I was on stage. So we're going to come back to that idea a little bit later in this session. On Friday, there are, again, a lot more education sessions, but one of the great things I loved the most about the conference was something called the Accredited Speakers Program. And we've never really discussed this in Korea. The Accredited Speakers Program is for people who do public speaking for a living. And I always mess up this woman's last name. Barbara, oh, it's on here. Oh, Barbara Kozam. Barbara Kozam was one of the accredited speakers this year. Now, what Barbara had to do to become an accredited speaker was first give at least 25 paid speaking programs in a year on her own for business, have people write recommendations for her from those businesses, send in video of her speaking and doing professional training and speech training and communication training. And then if they decide she's good enough, they invite her to speak for 20 minutes at the International Convention. There were 2 invited speakers. The first guy didn't make the cut, and I thought he was excellent. These judges must be the hardest judges in the world. Because she was excellent, she became an accredited speaker. We always say DTM is the highest award in Toastmasters. I don't believe that's true at all. I believe it is the Accredited Speaker Program. Some years, they don't even vote in a single one. It's a very, very strict competition. But I learned more from these 20-minute professional sessions than I did from anybody's 5 to 7 minute speech. Now, maybe that's the business side of me, and they were doing more business training. It wasn't as entertaining as a 5-minute funny speech, no, but it was more valuable, I think, in terms of education. That was one of the great things on Friday. Saturday morning at 9 a.m., and if you want to get a good seat, you show up before 8 a.m., and you stand in line for the World Championship of Public Speaking. Those semifinals that I talked about, there's 9 of them, only 1 speaker moves on. And there's usually 9 or 10 contestants, sometimes maybe even 11. So only 1 person gets to move on, and then the final 9, they speak Saturday morning. I'm going to talk about some things that happened in that final round again as the session moves on. One of the most fun things that happens on Saturday is the new international president gets his inauguration, and then we have a big party. There's a huge buffet, there's DJs, there's dancing, there's another room with jazz music and desserts, and so it's kind of the final goodbye, and it goes until midnight that final night on Saturday, and then Sunday everyone else wakes up and usually goes back to their regular day jobs. One of the funny things was I didn't know going into the international convention what to expect in terms of liveliness. I was afraid I would be sitting in rooms just session after session, and after 4 days of this just become numb. But that didn't really happen. Everybody that was an education presenter was on point. They were very energetic. All the people I networked and met were really nice. And the Saturday night thing was really amazing because we have a lot of young people here in Toastmasters in Korea. We're young in Toastmasters as an organization, but we seem to be attracting a lot of young professionals and even students. Toastmasters that's been going on like in the U.S. and Europe, even longer than here, they have members that are much older. These old senior citizen members were out there dancing their butts off Saturday night, and it was a really lively thing to see. It was just that it was very energetic, and it was a good way to end that convention. So let's talk about leadership. Again, apologies for the lighting. The new international president, he was voted in, and this is some of the people here from Korea. He's another great person that we networked with and connected with and had conversations with. We don't see I don't believe we see in Korea the amount of time and leadership and dedication that goes on behind the scenes to run this organization. Everything from maybe if you're just a club member, what your club presidents do, then what the area governor does, the division governor does, what does the district governor and all those other district officers do. We don't see that very much at the club level, but it's definitely happening. And there's lots of late night things and Skype meetings and face-to-face meetings and weekend meetings. But then at the international level, there's 14 regions. There's 14 regional directors. And then there's a few other international, like president, vice president, second vice president. And that's what the focus of the conference really is. We see Toastmasters a lot as the speech contests. I would say what's happening at the convention, the speech contest is only about 25% of really what's going on. That's really where the leaders are going. So if you want to see great speeches, go. But if you want to meet great leaders and get involved and network with those people, it's an excellent opportunity. One thing I'd like to tell is a very quick story that I thought was humorous, and maybe this is I've been involved in the elections and the voting process at the district level, and this was the first time I got to vote at the international level. So the candidates, you can meet the candidates throughout the week, and you can shake their hand, read their literature, get to know who you want to vote for, even if they're not in your region. We're Region 13, we can vote for Region 6, we can vote for Region 8. Now, each club gets a vote or 2 votes. I can't remember now. Each club either gets a vote or 2 votes, but not every club votes. Most people can't go to the international convention, so they assign a proxy. That means you can give your votes to another person, and we do this through electronic voting pads. There's probably a good 1,000 to 2,000 people in one huge meeting room, and everybody's listening to candidate speeches, and then they choose number 1, number 2, or number 3, and then it tallies it up, and that person becomes that new regional director. I should say international director is the proper term, but there's 14 international directors. There were about, I'm going to round some numbers here. There were about 20,000 votes being tallied in that room. Again, because many people might have 10 or 15 or 20 votes, depending on who in their district and which clubs actually gave them their votes. And Toastmasters uses parliamentary procedure. Who was at the business meeting today? All right. Those of you got to see some parliamentary procedure hiccups, and sometimes it's confusing with rules and the processes. This doesn't change at the international level. The way that we vote does follow a clear system. And I'd like to tell you guys a quick story. All right. So here's a quick story on how leadership and voting in elections still run into problems, even at the top international level. Now, the international president, his name in August was George Yin. He was here in April, if you got to meet him. There was also on stage with George Yin a parliamentarian. This is a person who is supposed to know all the Robert's Rules of Order, all the parliamentary procedure, and how voting and elections should work. And George Yin also is a parliamentarian himself. So there's two certified experts who have been trained in these voting processes. Now, there were in one of the votes for one of the regions, there were 3 candidates. Now, in order to win, someone has to be a clear winner. They have to have at least 50 or just over 50% of the vote. So let's say, for rounded numbers, to win, a candidate would have to get 10,000 out of those 20,000 votes. If one of these 3 gets 10,000, boom, they're the winner, we're done. But that didn't happen. Somebody got 7,000, somebody got 8,000, somebody got 5,000. So they said, okay, and this is proper procedure. The president calls for a second vote with the top 2 candidates. So if you were the lowest one, sorry, you're done. Now, the votes were very, very close. Somebody got 10,100, and somebody got 9,900, and there was a winner should have been announced because there was a clear majority. However, there were 400 ineligible votes. Now, what that means is somebody didn't vote, or they pressed the wrong button. They made a mistake, which happens. So, the president called for a third vote. He said, we need to have another vote because there were 400 people who didn't vote, and this gap was less than 400. But that is not the way parliamentary procedure works. That was a mistake. Another parliamentarian who was in the audience came up to the microphone and said, point of order, there's been a mistake made. There was a clear majority, and the voting's done. They said, your point of order has been acknowledged. Please sit down. Well, that is another problem with procedure. If somebody raises a point of order and questions the order that things should go, you don't just say, okay, we heard you, sit down. You get out the rule, and you look it up, and then you read the rule to everybody so you know who is right and who is wrong following the written rules. Third vote was held, but it wasn't announced. The same guy got up on the microphone. Point of order. What you're doing is not allowed in parliamentary procedure. Thank you, sir. We heard you. Please sit down. Another point of order comes up. Another point of order comes up from a different person. I agree with the first point of order. This is not supposed to be happening. That other vote should stand. There's a clear majority. What rule can you show us that allowed you to have another vote? The parliamentarian said, common sense. And the crowd went, boo. And Toastmasters don't boo very often. But there were enough people who knew maybe they didn't know the rule, but they know the rule should have at least been used or at least looked at or read. So they went ahead and they announced another winner. And it was another candidate. So the person who won legitimately didn't win with the next vote. So it changed. However, another point of order gets up. A third point of order gets up. They finally say, okay, we need to take a recess. We need to take a break. We're going to look at the rule. Everyone erupts in applause. Yay, follow the rules. They're written for a reason. They come back after about 15 minutes and they said the point of order that originally was spoken was correct. We should not have held that third vote. So the person that originally had that clear majority was indeed announced the winner. So I tell this story, some of you find it funny, and it is if you know these rules. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've never studied parliamentary procedure, maybe the story's boring. But the moral of the story is, whether it's at the club level, the district level, or the international level, leadership takes time, elections and democracy take time, and there are going to be hiccups and bumps and mistakes made. But as long as we can maybe slow down and say, let's access the rules and give us time to do that, then it does make things go much more smoothly, or maybe at least much more fairly. Moving on. Again, we've got about 20 minutes left. We can do this in 20 minutes. The semifinal contest. I'd like to just share my personal experience with being in that contest with 10 other people from around the world who won their districts. When we showed up in the morning, we had a briefing. We got on stage, we tested the microphone, we spoke in some different voices, especially if we were going to use some different voices in the speech. The lights are on, and we get a feel for the stage. Then we leave. I went back to my friend's apartment, and I practiced my speech again and again and again and again and again. Taking the video, watching the video. I'm going to change this hand gesture, right? So I have a nice dinner. My friend, we show up, and it's time for the international speech contest. We're sitting in the front row. All the contestants are in the front row, and they said we'd like to introduce each contestant just by their name, just so we can know which order of the speaker. We'd all already drawn numbers. And first person, speaker number, 1, Joe Smith. Speaker number 2, Frankie Edgar. Speaker number 3, Jessica Horn. Speaker number 4, Kwan Yu Yang. Wah! The crowd goes crazy. If any of you were here a few years ago, Kwan Yu Yang he's from China, and he's repeatedly their district winner. He was second place in the world 3 years ago, and he's been gunning for that world title ever since. He did visit Korea at one of our conferences a few years ago. Well, because we were so close to China versus the USA where the conference is usually held, there were just hundreds and hundreds of just Chinese supporters. I mean, just because was great. So everyone was like, well, I hope the judges are unbiased, right? Number 5, Bob Kienzle. The numbers, then we go down the line. So the speeches that I saw, the first 3 speeches that I saw were amazing. Some of the speakers in our semifinal were better than a lot of the speeches I saw in the world finals. Now, just a note, if you use a speech in the semifinal and you win, you don't get to use that same speech in the finals 2 days later. You have to use different ones. So sometimes people bring their best speech to the semifinal, and just to get into the finals, and then maybe their final one they didn't have enough time, or they didn't practice it quite enough. That happens. But I saw some excellent speeches. I learned a lot. The candidates in the briefing and after the contest were awesome. There was no animosity. There was a sense of competition, but it was a very respectful sense of competition. Everyone's trading business cards, shaking hands, telling stories. And even after the winners were announced, there wasn't a single person that was bitter. And that was that whole, I think, the networking thing I was going to mention later. It was a very warm atmosphere. So, during the 4th speaker, I was the 5th speaker. Speaker number 3 was the crowd favorite, Kwan Yu Yang. He also is a stand-up comedian. Excellent. Just funny. Every 30 seconds, he's just laughing. The guy's amazing. And the 4th speaker, I was backstage for the 4th speaker because I have to put my microphone on, and when he's done, I walk out. 4th speaker, I could hear what he's saying. He's talking about his children. When they were born, they almost died. They talked about how he had to have faith to just have the will to live and the will to deal with his newborn babies on the brink of death. So, Kwan Yu Yang, yay, ha 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 ha! Next speaker, oh my goodness, dead babies, right? They didn't die, by the way, the babies are okay. But then I get out there, and my speech, if any of you saw it in April, I tried to do some humor, try to do some seriousness. I try to have a moral of the story about hard work and respecting the people who gave you that hard work to help you learn, and then what can we do to give that hard work and those challenges to other people to make them better leaders. So I tried to mix it all. But the feedback that I got was that after a very humorous speech, and then by chance, a very kind of depressing, thoughtful speech, mine was kind of in the middle there. The audience was just emotionally roller coasted. And I was like, I was that smooth transition, and so when I was on stage, a couple things kind of surprised me. The lights that were on during the briefing, they were on like 10 times more. I could not make out facial expressions. I can see, it's like if you squint your eyes, I can see people, but I can't see what they're doing, if they're smiling or anything. And I'm the kind of speaker where I do feed off of people, their eye contact, and if they're nodding their head or if they're smiling. It allows me to change my pace, my pausing style. It's just it's a response to the audience. And I was up there and that was completely taken away. And I didn't expect that because the briefing didn't have all those lights on so much. So and the audience was very different as well. This audience is very diverse, but the international audience is much more diverse. The jokes that worked here in Korea didn't work there. Some of them did. I could hear people from Korea, I could hear people from maybe the US or North America, but all those Chinese people, apparently they never had to like work at a pizza shop when they were a teenager because they didn't think my pizza stories were very funny. So I'm on stage thinking halfway through like, what am I doing wrong? Is my timing off? Is it my voice? And I was later able to get my video. I had to buy this from Toastmasters, and I downloaded it. And I looked at it, and I was like, no, I did really, really well. I'm very happy. But for some reason, maybe it's the other speeches and the mood of the other speeches. Maybe it's the international audience. Maybe there was a crowd favorite, and it was from China. Why did I not win? I don't know. But the moral of this story is, you never know who the judges are. You never know who is coming to that semifinal. There's 2 other ones going on that they could have gone to. But I did get some great feedback the next couple of days. I had people come up to me that I'd never met. They said, your speech had the best moral. Your speech had what would be, I believe, the most convincing. It would establish more confidence in people to challenge them. Some speeches were great and they were funny. Some speeches were very heartfelt, but they said they remembered mine because of that moral lesson at the end was greater. And that's one of the things I was going for, and to hear that feedback was really awesome. Other people said that the semifinal that I was in, that the other ones that they had seen that day, they said our semifinal was the toughest. They said it seemed like they took people that they knew were going to be excellent, and they said, let's just put them all together and see what happens. They didn't do that. It's all random. So I loved the stiff competition. I loved the people that I was competing with. And if any of you are going to be entering the speech competition in the district this next spring, do it. It's a great opportunity, especially if you can go every level from club to area, division to district. Like J.A. said in his last session, if you failed, you failed. He had to try for 6 years before he ever won in his district. We've only had 1 in our district. So I was happy to be the first winner. If I could go back and do it and do this speech again, I wouldn't change a thing. But in the future, I'd love to do it again. So I recommend that to everybody who's interested. A quick cut. We got 15 minutes left, which is good. I've just got one more major thing to say. The World Championship of Public Speaking. Those 9 these are the 3 winners and the contest chair. Kwan Yu Yong, who beat me, he got second.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted him to get first, so I could say, well, the guy who beat me ended up being the world champion, right? To make myself feel a little bit better about losing, right? But no, he got second. A guy, how do I say his name again? Devansara? Danajaya. I always mess that up. I mean, I even got to shake his hand, and I still can't remember his name. He was first, and they all did, and everyone that was up there. Almost everyone up there deserved to be up there. The speeches were great. We can watch, if you've ever watched these World Championship videos on YouTube, you can look at it and say, wow, that's great voice. Wow, that's great body language. Wow, that's a great message. But it's like going to a movie in a theater or going to see a live play. Watching it on a computer screen doesn't have that emotion and that energy. So being able to just be in that audience and getting there early and having a good seat, it was a great experience. It taught me a lot about the time and the effort that these different people put into their speeches. And it was good also to know that whoever wins first place can never compete again at any level, even the club. So in the future, whoever has to go and compete will never have to compete against number 1, but you might have to compete against number 2. There were 9 speakers. All of them were great except one. And actually, he was a great speaker, but something very strange happened that no one had ever seen. Speaker number 9, again, they draw numbers, it's random. He gets up there, he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to apologize. I won my semifinal 2 days ago, and I was in my hotel room last night at 2:30 a.m., and I realized I had no speech. I called my friends and said I'm going to quit. They said, no, don't quit. We're coming over to help you." He said at 3:30 a.m., he realized there was no way he was going to be able to have a good speech. So he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here on stage to apologize. I'm here on stage to tell you that I'm happy to be here. I've let myself down. I've let you down." And he did this with really good voice and body language. The guy is a natural speaker, but he's not a natural planner, apparently. So he didn't even speak for the minimum time of 4 minutes and 30 seconds. He got off the stage. Some of the international Toastmasters group has a Facebook forum. It's over 10,000 people. They talk about this and that. Someone brought this up. We've never seen someone get up there and apologize. And everyone was saying, "Oh, I thought he was good. I thought it was very kind of him to do." I had a different reply. I said, "I don't. I lost respect for him. Why? If he would have said, even though I won the semifinal, I'm not ready, I'd like to give the chance to the second place winner, who probably did have something ready to go." But instead of giving that opportunity to somebody, and to give the opportunity to the audience to see one more world-class speaker, he didn't quit early. He waited till he was on stage to quit. And it was something very strange. What's the moral of the story? Plan your speeches. But overall, weird things happen, and there's always fun little stories, and that'll be a lasting memory. Final thing I'd like to mention, and then we'll do. I want to know what you guys want to know about anything with the international organization, the international convention, the speech contest, club, or international level. But before that, the last thing I'd like to say is the networking was great. World champions, world leaders, people trading business cards. Our previous regional director, who was here last year, named Balaraj, he told me, "Hey, if you get past district again, let us know, because we want to put you in touch with some of the tutors and some of the mentors that helped this world champion this year." A lot of these guys have been doing this for years. And they've worked with the world's best coaches, the world's best mentors to get to that international level. I don't know those people. And maybe I've met them once, but I don't have that connection. But just going and shaking their hands opens up so many different professional doors. Maybe this former world champion, or this current world champion this year, could be someone who is in our region in Sri Lanka that would be somebody that in the future I could work with again. And those are the lasting, it's not just a lasting memory from going to the international convention. It's lasting business, professional communication, and leadership networking that hopefully will continue for years and years and years. Kwan Yu Yong, who I mentioned. No, once he visited here, we hung out. We went out, we went to Icha. He's come through Korea to Incheon on a layover, meet up, have a drink. We chat on Facebook. I tell him, "You dirty, you beat me." No, I don't say that. No. Everything's very jovial. Everybody's great, and this organization, the networking, the friendliness that you guys see here this weekend, multiply that by 100, and add people from over 100 countries from around the world, and that's what it's like to be there in that atmosphere for those 4 days. So thank you all for listening to me. I know I speak quickly because, again, I cut out about 10 minutes of other time that I could have used. But I want to know, what are your thoughts? What are your questions? Yes.
I was curious. I just wanted to know that was your speech the same or similar to the speech that you did at the district level?
It was. Let me try to get the eye contact here. It was. So the question was my speech the same? Yeah, I used the same speech at club, and then I improved it. I take a video, then I improved it at area. Got area, great. Video, division, then at district. I had my video from district. And I had the summer to change little things. There were things that I took out where I didn't think the humor would work with a different non-Korean or non-American-ish audience. And also, there were other things that I added. There were things that I cut out to slow down and to have more time to pause or to go slowly. And there's other things that I added. All in all, though, the speech was the same, but from club level to international level, it became it's almost like if you bought a $5,000 US car and you kept putting things on it. And here's a new engine, here are new tires, and it ends up being a $25,000 car. That's I guess a good analogy. But same car in the same frame. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Other questions? Yes.
If you pass the final contest, then you have 2 days to speak for the final speech.
Yeah.
Then you have to make a new story. Then you have to make a new speech.
So the rule is in the international, from club up to international level, you can use the same speech. However, there's one rule. If you make it into the final 9, the World Championship finals, that speech cannot have been used that same year at any level of contest. So if you gave it at your club level, you could not even use it for the international level. Now, could somebody, let's take again, Kwan Yu Yong, good example. He was the second place world champion in 2011. He could have reused his speech or any other speech this year, as long as it wasn't from this year. So you really have to go in with 2 speeches. I went in, I wrote quite a few speeches, and I was never really happy with the one that I would have used for the final. I eventually developed one that was about death, actually. Not to be morbid, but it was actually looking at the positive sides and good lessons that we can learn, and what could death teach us as just part of life that we go through. And it had some humor, but it had some seriousness, and I was trying to do that balance. A lot of people have said that a lot of the speeches that were winning this year in the semifinals, very humorous. Lots of laughter, lots of jokes, but they said a lot of them maybe fell short with a message. They focus more on making the audience happy and smile, but 2 weeks later, have they improved their own communication or leadership or their own professionalism? So there seems to be now a shift in Toastmasters where it's becoming, hey, humor. But that's usually probably like an ebb and a flow. We're probably going to see next year, we've seen too much humor, let's go back to some seriousness. And again, who are the judges? We have no idea. We don't know what they're in the mood for. It's like when you go to a movie, do you want to watch a comedy or do you want to watch a drama? Or do you want to watch a documentary? and we don't know what those judges are looking for. So you kind of go in and cross your fingers and hope that they like your ideas and they like you. Yes?
You in the semi-final. How did it change your life?
How did the semifinal change my life?
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the biggest stage I've been on. So it was another level of like nervousness. It was another level. It's like if let's say you play basketball and you're playing basketball in high school, and then you have your first game at university, and you're playing with people that are now a league above. There was some very stiff competition here in Korea, but it was nothing like the competition that I was up against at the international level. Because again, we're new in Korea. We've only had 1 district championship so far. We've had national, which we would call territory, but we were never able to move on. So at the division, at the international semifinal level, a lot of those people have been doing it for 10 years, and they've been doing these big stage contests. And I think that was the thing that changed it for me, was just being at a completely different level of competition. And at the same time, having a speech that I created the first time in February and focusing on that until the end of August. A lot of people said, hey, are you going to give your speech again in your education session? I said, I'm sick of that speech. No. Maybe after a year I'll pull it back out. But yeah, for a year, it's in the drawer. It's no longer fun for me because it was practice. I don't know how many times I ended up doing that. Time for one more quick question. I'm getting hand signals. I want to talk to you more if you have questions for me. But
I just wanted to ask, how many judges were there, and did you need to know who they were?
no, the way the judges work, and this is for any contest, the judges are chosen by the chief judge, and the chief judge should be the only person who ever knows who they are. Now, you might see a judge in the audience with a form. I did. I can sometimes say, I see the judging form. But the thing is, that's during the competition. And there's no way that I could see a judge and then change my entire speech to fit that one person. Because usually I believe there are 9 judges. The idea of the semifinals was that each district who was in that semifinal, there were 9 districts in that semifinal, 1 judge comes from each. So somebody here, I know who it was actually, somebody who was here from our district that was at that competition, I saw them in the audience and I could see their judging form. I know who it was, but that's in the middle of my speech. It didn't really affect me. All right, final one. We got to go.
I would like to know if you are working on your new story.
Absolutely. I have a speech already lined up for the spring contest. It's not all written in practice, but I've got it here, and I've got it here. Yeah, so. All right, guys, thank you so much. Real quick, I've got business cards I gave to people. I'd love to get emails or late night text messages or whatever you want. If you didn't get one, please pick it up. Also, if you're ever interested in coming to the Toastmasters Club in Yongsan-gu on Thursdays, if you bring this card, you get free entry your first time. So those will be up there too. So thank you all very much. John Patrick, thank you. Awesome. Okay. I'm very happy this many people came. I thought, oh, they're going to stay downstairs for the international VIPs.